Top 5 worst drugs for mental withdrawals. Do not ever discount mental withdrawals and withdrawing from something. These are the top 5 worst that you're going to go through if you're getting sober from these. Honorable mention for this is hallucinogens, MDMA, Molly, which is actually MDMA, LSD. These do have a mental withdrawal side to them. They do affect your serotonin, which if you don't know, your serotonin is your cognitive, your mood, where like dopamine is more of that big mood energy. It's that happiness is the easiest way. It's also mood. These are the two real big neurotransmitters that affect you when it comes to your brain itself. And these mental withdrawals really fall under what's called PAWS, which is post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And so honorable mention is MDMA, LSD, hallucinogens. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Number 5, heroin. Heroin is the 5th worst mental withdrawal. So heroin does actually produce dopamine. So that is the feel-good, chemical. There is a lot of mental withdrawals that are going to go through with heroin. Heroin, you do experience pause with. I know people that went through pause with heroin or opiates or fentanyl for a year to 2 years. Comment your experience if you've ever experienced pause down below, because I think it's really important to share our experiences so that people realize, like, hey, after 30 days sober, it doesn't necessarily get easier. And if it's getting worse, that can sometimes be part of the process, and definitely get help and definitely reach out. But heroin does affect your dopamine. Heroin, you have a lot of mental withdrawal from it, of happiness, of mood, of realizing it's a lot of times an escape. Pain itself can create a lot of depression. Don't ever discount depression. When I was sober for about a year and 1 month, I ended up attempting to take my life because my depression was so bad. One of the big things is when you are going through these withdrawals, getting with a therapist and a psychiatrist who understands addiction. A lot of times you can get prescribed like an SSRI or something to help with the serotonin, to maybe help with the depression a little bit. But number 5 is going to be heroin because of what it's going to do to your brain. Also, when you throw in the pain and everything else coming up, a lot of it, isolation, everything goes on in your head, massive mental withdrawals on it. Number 4, weed. Weed is number 4. Massive addiction to weed is number 4 for mental withdrawals. And the reason is there's a lot of anxiety that can kick in. A lot of it's habit, a lot of it's time struggle eating. There's some pain to it. Weed itself doesn't create a lot of dopamine, and it doesn't do a lot with serotonin, but so much of it is anxiety driven, struggles with sleep driven. A lot of times people will use it as a replacement to maybe self-medicating for maybe medication that they should be on, who knows. But number 4 is weed when it comes to mental withdrawals. Number 3, and I totally agree with number 3, even though it seems really weird, is nicotine. Nicotine is number 3 on mental withdrawals, and it's hard. And it's hard to explain why nicotine is so hard to withdraw from. A lot of it is habits. Even when it comes to weed, there's habits with weed, but with nicotine, there's even more habits of driving with it and going out in breaks. And nicotine itself is a silent stimulant, which actually calms anxiety. It helps with sensory regulation with the deep breaths. Emotional overload it helps with. I mean, it helps with so much. So when you're cutting nicotine and stuff out of your life, it brings up a lot, and it is a very, very difficult reason. A lot of times people will just relapse on nicotine, even though it's not as deadly as heroin. Let's face it. It's not, it's not that dangerous in a sense. It will probably kill you down the road, but in the immediate future, in the way of danger, it's not there. And so our brain even kind of knows that, which makes it even harder to get sober from, in a sense, or to quit smoking. Quitting smoking was one of the hardest things that I did. It was one of the worst things that I ended up doing. Next one is going to be crystal meth. Crystal meth produces more dopamine than any other drug out there does. It is a massive rush of dopamine. It's hitting your serotonin, and it's lasting for a very long time. Now, it can create a lot of actual permanent damage to it. You do create a dopamine tolerance to it. It is a very major mental withdrawal, coping, isolation. You're gonna feel it, and you're gonna feel it on a lot of different areas. It's not just on the happiness side. It's on the cognitive function sides, even of memory, forgetfulness, just these normal functions that we should have that we start to struggle with. A lot of times there can be permanent brain damage from crystal meth use that you're not aware of. Getting off of meth is a scary thing. I know a lot of people struggle with it. Meth also has some really gnarly pause to it. It is one of the substances that has a lot of post-acute withdrawal syndrome because it takes a long time for your brain to heal. And unfortunately, we kind of have this misconception as a society that, hey, after 30 days of being sober, you're good. That's not how it works. After 30 days of being sober, you're probably you've built a new habits and patterns, probably have went through most of the physical withdrawals, but you're gonna have a lot of mental withdrawals. Our brain doesn't get normal after 30 days, and it can take years because of all the damage we did for it to our brain to actually get normal. Number one, cocaine. Cocaine is the number one ranked withdrawal for just the worst withdrawals there is. And I agree to it. The problem with cocaine is, unlike like crystal meth, it's a stimulant. It only lasts in your system for about 15 minutes. It creates massive dopamine tolerance. And what that dopamine tolerance is you don't find happiness in life. Unfortunately, like cocaine has this weird stigma around it that it's kind of like the safe party drug, rich person drug, all this stuff. What they don't talk about is a lot of cocaine addicts, once they can't afford cocaine, switch over to crystal meth or you switch over to crack cocaine. When it comes to cocaine itself, it builds very quickly this mental tolerance to it of feeling happy, big mood energy. Normal things in life aren't going to bring you happiness anymore. Relationships don't bring you happiness. Natural things create dopamine for you, like good sleep actually produces dopamine. Food can help produce dopamine. You know, going to the gym can produce dopamine. Being outside. These are all things that can naturally produce and get your dopamine receptors firing off. When you have a massive stimulant like cocaine in your system that hits so hard, so fast, your brain all of a sudden to reach and produce any dopamine needs all of a sudden an instigator in a sense, like, cocaine. And that's where it is so bad with the mental withdrawals. There's a lot of pause that goes along with it. When I was withdrawing from cocaine, a year and a month into my sobriety, I ended up trying to take my life because the mental withdrawals were so bad. So don't discount how bad those withdrawals can be. The reality of withdrawals is they are brutal, and they are different for everybody. People will ask me all the time, what's the worst withdrawal? The worst withdrawals are drug of choice. As an addict, our drug of choice is going to be the worst withdrawal. There's even substances on here that did surprise me because I think alcohol has a lot of mental withdrawals to it because of the fact that it does numb, it solves a problem and stuff like that. But when it really festers into it, it's not even on the list, which really actually kind of shocked me. But it has a very big physical withdrawal side to it. That is the thing that I don't think we really take into account when it comes into withdrawals, is that they are so different, and you can't judge somebody on their withdrawals. It's not because somebody was a heroin addict doesn't mean that they were a worse addict than somebody who is a weed addict. You have to look at them all the same without judgment and understand that everyone's going through their own battle. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment your experiences down below, because I think that's where it really begins at, is the more that we share, the more that we educate, the more that we talk about our experiences, the more it normalizes it for us getting through it. Of going, what I'm going through is normal. Okay, because that's the worst, is when you're going through something and you're like, dude, what's wrong with me? Like, no one else is experiencing this. How am I experiencing this and no one else has? That is not the case. And that's why I think it's so important to share, is you realize that, yes, you aren't alone, that other people do struggle with this stuff. And some of the different solutions out there of going through it and understanding that this is a process. Again, a lot of times getting with the right psychiatrist who understands addiction, I think, is really important. Getting into the right group settings and the right support settings is really important. That makes a huge difference. So I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. I know what it's like. I am proud of everybody out there going through it. Anyone out there fighting through it, you got this. It's one day at a time. Links are down below. Eric B. Zink has a ton of different links there. I just started doing a podcast. I started doing even more social media just to try and help people make a bigger difference. And if you are out there struggling, don't give up. It gets better. I promise you that.